What is going on, guys? This is Jersey Aviation back with another video. Today's video, we're gonna be reviewing the basics of S1 ATC. This is for anyone who needs it. This is gonna be a pretty in-depth video. Um, I'm going to be working out of ZDC, the ZDC RTEC. I suggest you join the ZDC RTEC. It's a pretty good RTEC. They've got really nice training, and overall, it's probably one of the best RTECs in my opinion. Um, we're gonna start off by reviewing some basic principles. Sorry for that voice crack. Alright, so basically, the legacy material in VAT USA, the VAT USA CVTs, the Albuquerque phraseology, the Boston Handbook. But here's the stuff that actually matters. The types of airspaces, the even odd rule for altitudes, including RVSM, navigational equipment, RNAV, GNSS, and VORs, equipment suffixes, departure procedures, and well, this can be out of Dulles, obviously, but all right. So let's go ahead and go ahead and start up this line alpha. I don't know. I kept looking at that, but anyways, let's go ahead and start up. So the first thing we're going to be reviewing is the types of airspaces. So we're going to go ahead and go to valueusa.net, and we're going to pull up the um, CPT, or the computer-based training, or sorry, yep, the Legacy Value USA training materials. And we're going to go ahead and review the different types of airspaces. Alrighty. So the first one we're going to be looking at is the Class Alpha airspace. So the Class Alpha airspace is essentially the highest airspace, right? The Class Alpha airspace ranges from 18,000 MSL to 60,000 MSL. And the Class Alpha airspace is indeed the highest airspace. Above 60,000, we'll get to that in a minute, but above the Class Alpha airspace is a Class Echo airspace. 60,000 is the highest controlled airspace, I meant to say, but I'll get to that in a minute. Requirements to fly in a Class Alpha airspace are you need to be IFR, since it starts at 18,000, and the highest VFR altitude is 17,000 or 17,000. A VFR flight cannot fly in a Class Alpha airspace. You need to maintain two-way radio communications with ATC at all times, and you need an operating Mode Charlie transponder. Class Bravo airspace is what surrounds DC and the Washington airspace, such as Dulles. You can see Class Bravo airspace is surrounded by these little rings. That's how you can tell it's a Class Bravo. Class Bravo surrounds the busiest airports, such as LAX, Dulles, DC. I don't know actually if it surrounds DC, but I'm pretty sure. And the requirements to operate in a Class Bravo are a VFR aircraft needs an explicit clearance into and throughout the Class Bravo airspace. You need to maintain two-way radio communications with ATC at all times, and an operating Mode Charlie transponder. Class Charlie airspace, you can look at a Class Charlie by these two little circles. As you can tell in the Class Bravo airspace has these massive rings. Class Charlie airspace has two little rings, two shelves, as we call them. The requirement in a Class Charlie airspace is a two-way radio communication with ATC and an operating Mode Charlie transponder. Class Delta airspace is the second least restricted airspace. So I guess you can think of airspaces as Class Alpha being the most restrictive, Class Bravo being the second most restrictive, Class Charlie being the third most restricted, Class Delta being the fourth most restricted, and then Class Echo, which we'll talk about in a minute, being the least restricted airspace. In fact, it's not restricted at all, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So Class Delta airspace, all you need is two radio communications. No mode Charlie transponder needed. Um, that's literally it for the Class Delta. Class Echo is anything else. So anything that is outside of a airspace is considered, or I guess I should rephrase that. A Class Echo airspace is everything outside of Class Delta, Bravo, Alpha, Charlie, anything outside of any of those airspaces. For example, anything above flight level 600 is a Class Echo. Anything, well, basically that's the only altitude rule on a Class Echo. So the Class Echo is basically everything where a restricted airspace or another airspace controls, right? Class Echoes have no requirements, meaning you don't even need to maintain active communication with ATC. And yeah. Then there's a Class Golf airspace. Here's a little chart you can look at. Class Golf you don't really need to worry about until you're S2 or S3. So we're not really going to talk about the Class Golf. Not really going to talk about the military operation areas or the restricted areas. All right. So we have went ahead and covered the types of airspaces and the requirements. Now we're going to talk about the even odd rule. So I'm going to go ahead and open up, let's see. Do I have OneNote? I do. Okay. This is the easiest way I can explain it. Here, let me just sign into my OneNote really quickly. And I think this would be the easiest way for me to explain this. So when you're doing your computer-based training for RVSM, um, they are going to tell you that, I believe they tell you that odds are north and east and evens are south and west. That's a little much. You don't need that much. We're gonna go ahead and pull up. See, do I have a pen or something I could use? It drop. Alright. So what I want you to do, or you can just watch me do it, is we're gonna draw a circle, right? Divide that circle into two halves, right? So on this side, you've got west. Here, let me actually use a different pen, just because we'll make yeah, I guess the skinniest one. So, right, divide it into two. So on this side, you've got west. On this side, you've got east, right? So, knowing that east altitudes are odd and west altitudes are even, uh, we can basically determine, right? Like, let's say an aircraft is flying this way, right? We can determine that he's going to be on an even altitude. What do I mean by that, right? So, let's say American 917 or 1917 is flying from, let's see, American 1917 is flying from Dulles or Iod to, um, let's see, I guess we'll just say, this guy is flying to New York, right? So, where is this, right? We know, so that's gonna be, um, JFK, right? He's flying at JFK. Um, so we know that he's gonna be flying in this direction, northeast. So we can determine that he's going to have an odd altitude. And we're going to talk about altitude restrictions out of JFK in a minute. But basically, the JFK has a altitude restriction of 17,000 or 17,000. So, um, let's see here. So, can American 1917 cruise at an altitude of 160? No, because remember he's flying eastbound, so he's gonna have an odd altitude, right? Can he fly at 150 or 15,000? Yes or no? I'll let you guys answer that. It's gonna be a yes. 150 is a valid cruise altitude since he's flying eastbound. Is 130 a valid altitude or 13,000? Yes, it is. All right. Um, there's one thing I want to cover really quickly about something really quickly. So, if you do not know, flight level starts at 180. So, 17 or 17,000 would be 17,000, right? Um, anything above 180 would then be called flight level 1, blank 0, right? Um, that's basically the phraseology. And then also for numbers, the number 3 is pronounced tree. The number 5 is pronounced 5. I guess that's not really necessary. The 9 is pronounced niner. So 130, right? Or, 190, 190. Alright, anyways, continuing on to our odd and even altitudes, right? Let's say an aircraft is. Oh, that's the next topic, right? We're going to talk about RVSM. So, RVSM stands for Reduced Vertical Separation uh, Minima or Minimum. What this means is aircraft flying from flight level 290 to 410. Um, they are, well, basically, they can fly at a vertical separation minimum of 1,000 feet. Right, so 290 is going to be a eastbound altitude, right? So 290 is going to be east. 300 is now going to be west. 310 is going to be a east. 320 is going to be a west, and so on, so on. But when you reach 410, which is the top of RVSM, right? 410 is a west altitude. Or sorry. It's a 410 is a east altitude. Meaning, okay, well, I mean, I guess this is the next part that follows the fact that 410 is east. After you go above RVSM, the vertical separation minimum goes up to 2000. So, let's make a little chart, right? So, let's see here. 310 is going to be east. So the aircraft's going to be heading this way. Oh, hold up. I'll actually make a little thing. And we'll separate it into a few boxes. So, 310. Or hold up, we should probably start at the top, right? So 310 is going to be east. As you can see by our little chart on the first page, 310 is odd, so it's going to be an east altitude. 320 is going to be a west. 330 is going to be east. And then 410 is going to be oh, never mind. I skipped some. 410 is going to be east. 'Cause it's odd. So, you have everything at 410, right? And then once you get above 410, the reduced vertical separation minimum goes up to 2000. So then, after 410, the next available altitude is going to be 430, right? And that's because the vertical separation minimum goes up to 2000. Or it goes, yeah, up to 2000, right? So if 410 is an east altitude, 430 would be a west altitude. 450 would be an east altitude. 470 would be a west altitude. 490 would be an east altitude. So on and so forth. Now remember, the class Alpha airspace ends at 600. So above 600 is considered a class Echo, and then there's no altitude restrictions above the class uh, Alpha or in the class Echo. So and we'll just erase that. Just keep that in mind. So now knowing the altitude restrictions, we can move on to or the odd even rule for altitudes. We can move on to navigational equipment. So the easiest way to teach navigational equipment is you just look up the definition. So RNAV stands for area navigation. Area navigation is a method of so basically, this is probably the simplest way to teach it. You go from point A to point B in a short amount of time using a navigation system that allows you to do this. Guess that's the basic terminology for RNAV. It's basically it's a fancy GPS. Most planes will have an RNAV and GNSS combination, which will allow them to do this even quicker and more efficiently. The next thing we're going to review is GNSS. The You really don't need to know about different types of navigational you know terminology. You just need to know what they do. Um, the GNSS is basically like GPS. It yeah, it's basically like a high-tech GPS system. That's all you really need to know about GNSS. And then VORs. VOR stands for very high frequency omnidirectional range. Okay, it is a basically it's an aircraft will navigate to a point. So I guess we could draw this out. Let's make a new page. Page. All right. So let's say aircraft starts here and air traffic control wants someone to go to this point right here. So we'll just name this one A and then B. So using uh, VOR, they can allow the aircraft to go from point A to point P using very high omnidirectional frequencies. Um, but as long as you know uh, that aircraft needs to be okay, well, we'll talk about this in a minute. So there's a basic forms of navigational equipment. Equipment suffixes. This is the next part that we are going to be talking about. Um, I'm going to open up my ATC cheat sheet really quickly, so I can show you guys some. Well, this is gonna be what I'm gonna use for my summary of this, but anyways, I just go open up equipment codes. And I do want to um hold up. Let's go ahead and move that into here. All right. Um, so we have got our equipment codes right here, right? So, the main equipment codes you need to know, for your S1, and honestly, probably throughout your entire career as an air traffic controller, are Zulu, Lima, and no one really flies uniform. You need to know an Alpha. You need to know a. Let's see, that's basically it. I'm pretty sure. I mean, you'll see most aircraft flying with a slant Lima or slant Zulu if they're RVSM capable. We just learned about RVSM. So basically, what you need to know is that certain departures out of any airport will have to have a required navigational capacity, right? Uh, we'll take a look at some of those departures in a minute, but basically, aircraft in this section are RVSM capable. As you can tell, this one is RNAV and GNSS capable. A slant Lima, sorry, and a slant Zulu is RNAV but no GNSS. Um, you're never really gonna see an aircraft flying with a slant hotel or a slant whiskey, so don't worry about those. But all right. Anyways, back to the departures out of Dulles, right? So this is where departure procedures come in. We're gonna go and pull up Sky Vector for IAD, and we're gonna look at some departures out of Dulles, right? There's three types of departures. There are there are there's pilot nav SIDs, radio navigation SIDs, or radio nav SIDs, or RNAV SIDs. Um, and then there's hybrid nav SIDs, right? So we're gonna look at some of these departures out of Dulles. So we've got the Buns 3 here. So as you can tell, the Buns 3, if we look at the notes, DME or GPS required. Alright, so if we go ahead and look at our equipment suffixes over here, we can see that you must have DME or GNSS or RNAV, right? You need to have RNAV compatibilities. So, um, let's see, a slant uniform would not be able to fly this departure, a Bunster departure. Let's see, that's basically it. Nothing without DME or RNAV can fly this departure. So we can see that this one, remember, there's radio nav SIDs, pilot nav SIDs, and then there's hybrid nav SIDs, right? So we can see that this is gonna be a hybrid nav SID. Sorry. Um, Yes. So this is going to be a uh this is going to be a hybrid nav sid because of the fact that you're being vectored to the point lu or the point yu, and then after that you are flying direct to buns, and then rame transition or the buns transition, right? Um, or it's gonna be the rame transition. Sorry. So this is a hybrid nav sid. The buns 3 is a hybrid nav sid. Let's go ahead and look at the Capital One departure. Right, so the Capital One departure is a very, very interesting departure. The Capital One departure, so most of the SIDs out of Dulles, the departures out of Dulles, um, you have to be a turbojet or an airliner to fly on these departures, or else the large traffic would be getting slowed down drastically or majorly. You know? So the Capital One allows all aircraft to um to fly, right? So the Capital One departure is a radar nav SID, right? You will be vectored to Martinsburg. You'll be vectored to Baltimore. You'll be vectored to Westminster. You'll be vectored to Washington. Casanova, Hafner, or Gordonsville. So this is a fully radar nav SID. The Capital One departure is very important because it includes all of uh, the vectors. Like the Casanova is a pretty common vector. Um, let's see, Baltimore's a pretty and Martinsburg. These are pretty common. In fact, I am going to put this on cheat sheet because it's pretty important. Uh, Hold up, I'll just screenshot that then. This is probably one of the most important pieces of anything to have, honestly. If you're if you're if you're if you're ATCing out of Dulles. All right, now we're gonna look at the Klitsch 3 departure. Just go through all these. So the Klitsch 3 departure is a hybrid nav. Um, so you are being radar vectored to Bert's, and you can you fly to Malls or Flask. So this is going to be a hybrid nav sit. So get the Jacoby 4 and then should be good. Jacoby 4 is another form of hybrid nav sid. You're being radar vectored to Riggins, and then you fly to Swan, Agard, or Scoop by yourself. If we look over here in the notes, we can see that the Colin Scoob, so the Colin or Scoob transitions, right? Part 121 aircraft only. This means that only jets can fly on this departure. The Swan and Yard, Part 121 and Part 129, or 129er, means that only American traffic, or American traffic can fly on these departures to protect the DC airspace. Look over here, we can see the Jacoby 4, right, which is uh, the Swan or A-Guard, right? The A-Guard goes to JFK, LaGuardia, or ISP, and the Swan will go to, the Swan can be taken for European airliners, alright? And that can be taken to Boston, Bradley, or Newark. Alright. So that should be good for departure procedures. Now we are going to, let's see, how long has this been going on for? About 30 minutes? Alright, so that's probably going to sum up the part 1, just because I don't want this going too long. So that is going to sum up the part one. And the next part, we're going to be learning about how to give a my brain just farted. We are going to be learning how to give a VFR and IFR clearances. I'll do a short one. Just if you want to do practice before looking at my video, we can go ahead and go to FlightAware and go to IAD and just click on some of these departures. Like, oh, looks like FlightAware is down. Oh, this one's not. All right. So we can see that this is Jazz. So we'll go on to American traffic actually. Just look for like an American. Okay, we'll just do ExeJet. Alright. So we can see that this is ExeJet 532 requesting IFR clearance to White Plains Airport. ExeJet 532, Dallas ground, good evening. Cleared to White Plains Airport. Woolly 1 departures, Swan transition as followed, maintain 3000, expect level 29 or 0, 10 minutes after departure, departure frequency 126.1, squawk 5632. So we'll be covering that, we'll be covering the craft clearance, which is right here, if you want to look at this. That's going to wrap up the video. Go ahead and check out part 2 when you want to. And that was ATC Basics part 1. Peace out, guys.